The Wheeling Plan Commission meeting for Thursday, July 25th, 2013 is called to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Commissioner Dorban.
I'm here.
Commissioner Johnson is absent with prior notice. Commissioner Powers.
I'm here.
I'm Commissioner Schaaf. I am here. Commissioner Stylen.
I'm here too.
Commissioner Zangara.
I am here.
And Chairman Rufato.
Here. Mr. Jennings, any changes to the agenda?
We do have a couple of changes under consent agenda, items A and B. We do anticipate the petitioner present, so we're pulling those off to the items for review. And then item B under items for review, docket number 2013-13. We anticipate taking that in front of item A. And that is it.
That is fine. Thank you very much. Citizen concerns and comments? Do you have anybody wishing to make any comments? Nope. So we have consent items, docket numbers. We're pulling docket SCBA 1317 and 1318 off the consent. So we have docket number SCBA 1319, Fresh Farms, which Fresh Farms Market.
Garden Fresh Markets.
Garden Fresh Markets, I'm sorry. They're probably probably turning over right now on that one. So Garden Fresh Market, which we all know is a market. And next one is Walgreens, SCBA 1320, and SCBA 1321, which is La Red Services, which is a multi-service business offering services such as parking, planning, insurance, and wire transfers in a single location. And of course, Title Max, which is a lending institution.
Could you tell me again what La Red is?
La Red is a multi-service business offering services such as travel, planning, insurance, and wire transfers.
That's what I didn't hear. Okay.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second. We have a motion made by Commissioner Dorban, seconded by Commissioner Powers. Mr. Secretary, please take roll.
Commissioner Dorban.
Yes.
Commissioner Powers.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson is absent. Commissioner Schaaf, I vote yes. Commissioner Stylen.
Yes.
Commissioner Zangara.
Yes.
And Chairman Rufato.
Yes.
That is 6 yes, 1 absent.
No, they were in the hall.
Next, we have changed the docket. We're going with number B, docket number 2013-13 and SCBA 13-23.
We want to call it the Dynamax.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Having a tough time today. Docket number SCBA 1317 and 1318, Dynamax 1535, Abbott Drive, appearance approval of a wall sign, and 1543, 1547, Abbott Drive, appearance approval of a wall sign. Is there a representative here from there? From Dynamax? Nope. We will call them.
Call it again
Later. So docket number 2013-13 SCBA 1322 La. Want to say that for me?
La Michoacana de Mikey.
La Michoacana de Mikey, 294 McHenry Road. Special use site plan approval for an ice cream restaurant and appearance approval of wall signs. Mr. Secretary.
Mr. Chairman, Maria and Dora Zepeda, correct? Zepeda, owners of La Manchana de Mikey, lessee, are seeking special use plan approval as required under Title 19 zoning of the Wheeling Municipal Code, Chapter 19-06, Commercial Districts, Chapter 1910, Use Regulations, Chapter 1912, Site Plan Approval Requirements and associated sections, in order to establish an ice cream shop at 294 McHenry Road within the Creekside Plaza Shopping Center, which is Zone B-2, Neighborhood Commercial District. Standards for special use. A zoning special use is defined in Title 19 of the Village of Wheeling zoning is a use of a parcel of land that requires review and consideration before approval due to circumstances or effects on the surrounding properties that may adversely affect them. In order to be considered for a special use, the petitioner is required to demonstrate through testimony to the Plan Commission at the public hearing why their request meets the conditions of the village code, including but not limited to how the proposed use will not damage the enjoyment or use of the surrounding properties. Prior to the public hearing, the petitioner provides written statements meant to show that their request for a special use meets the standards established in Title 19. The Commission chairperson will typically direct that these statements be entered into the record without a full reading of them at the hearing. Based upon the testimony and supporting materials submitted, the Plan Commission will make findings in support of or against the petitioner's testimony and report these findings to the Village Board.
Thank you. Mr. Jennings?
No additional staff comments at this time.
So we have the petitioner, if you could come forward, please. Will both of you be speaking tonight on the,
Yes,
okay, so if you could raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you give tonight to be the truth?
yes.
Thank you. So if you could give, each of you give your name and business address to our recording secretary, that would be great.
My name is Dora Sanchez, and the address is 294 McHenry Road in Wheeling, Illinois.
Great, thank you.
And my name is Andrea Sanchez,
Same address?
294 McHenry Road, Wheeling, Illinois.
Great, thank you. So if you could describe what you're here in front of us for, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, basically, we want to put this ice cream place, La Michoacana de Mikey. We have other locations also in Illinois. We have one in Aurora, Romeoville, Hanover Park, and Addison. It's a large franchise in Mexico, and the owner is my mom and my stepdad. And he actually his grandfather was one of the founders in Mexico, so he grew up with it, and it's homemade ice cream. We also have different candies, we have fruit, and it appeals to a lot of people since it's different. And it always brings in a lot of business, and
Okay. Anything else to add? No? Don't be nervous. You can just take your time. Don't worry about it.
they're not making any type of big modifications other than the signs, so it's not going to interfere with any of the businesses that are in the area. It's an ice cream place, so it appeals to all ages. Yeah, it's very family oriented. There's a lot of ample parking space, so again, it's not going to interfere with any of the other businesses or
The
anything.
construction is mostly inside, like for plumbing and electrical stuff only, but the outside is going to stay the same, only the big signs.
Okay, great.
But it's pretty much.
Okay. Anything, Mr. Jennings?
No additional questions?
Great. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this? Okay, if you could move away from the microphone for a second, someone is coming up here. Could you please give your name?
My name is Deepak Joshi.
Okay, and if you raise your right hand, do you swear the testimony you give tonight to be the truth?
Truth, yes.
Okay, great. And if your business address?
Baskin Robbins,
Okay.
524 West Dundee Road,
Okay,
Wheeling, Illinois 60090. I'm in Lane Plaza.
okay,
I am in the business last 26 years. And another thing is my complaining is because it is one ice cream store is already in the Wheeling, and it is going to be hurt because of I got around about 75% is Spanish people, my customers. And it is only one block from my stores. That is my concern is, that's my request.
thank you. Thank you.
In 1987, I was in Lane Plaza.
Is there anyone here else wishing to speak on this subject? No. Okay, we will go to the commission. Commissioners, Commissioner Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I like the concept. A couple questions I have is the location of, how are you going to go about processing trash as far as if you have your garbage? Is there I think we're going to probably need at least a trash can outside. And then what about the internal trash? I'm familiar with the location, but I don't know, is there a trash receptacle in the rear of the building at all that you would take your garbage out? How do you propose, getting your garbage out?
I'm sorry,
Oh, don't worry about it.
That's okay.
I'm translating most.
Oh,
Oh, no
sure.
problem.
think
Don't
a
worry.
very good English.
No, that's fine.
To understand.
No, just take your time, that's fine.
Sí, va a haber un contenedor grande atrás, no sabemos exactamente dónde porque no hemos ido a revisar todo hasta que nos den los permisos, pero no consumimos demasiada basura
Okay.
porque pues eso todo nomás como fruta y eso. Pero
Okay.
también hay una trampa, no sé cómo se llama eso, la trampa que estaba.
Okay. Yes, they are planning on including trash cans outside of the store in the front as well as inside. And as far as for the large bags of trash, they haven't completely looked at the area in the back yet because they weren't going to look at that until they were fully approved. But they are planning on having a big, like a dumpster in the back for all the trash.
Whatever the requirements.
Yeah, whatever the requirements are for the city, but they're planning on including it in the back.
Andrew, do we have such a, any kind of requirement for that shopping center? I'm not aware, I haven't taken a look as far as, do we have any trash enclosures in the rear of that center, or would something like a portable garbage can, like a dumpster work in that area?
There is, behind the shopping center, there's a service drive, and there are service doors to each unit, and I can't remember exactly how many are grouped together, but there are a couple of trash enclosures. If you drive behind, if you look in the picture here, there's a service
Yep.
drive here. So each of the buildings has at least one grouping. I think there may be a couple of groupings of trash enclosures behind there.
So if they want, so if that seemed to not be enough, would we allow them to actually like rent like a dumpster with wheels on it and have it in the back there or in the back of the parking lot if they deem that necessary? Would that be allowed?
So there's a couple of different solutions. The one solution would be to increase frequency of pickup. So this particular business can work with Waste Management to increase pickup, and we occasionally do require a business to make that call and increase their pickup frequency. The other issue is size. We could have them increase size. In this location, it might be a frequency of pickup is the solution, but we do have requirements of enclosure location and size. Here, We might, we can work with them on it. I'd be comfortable working with the health officer and the petitioner on something like that.
Would there be any kind of condition, or is that something that gets monitored once the business is up and online? You guys would monitor that?
It is monitored, though if there is anything specific about the location, if you recall Starbucks, we had a question of where a new enclosure might go. If the commission does have any specific request on the location or how it be handled, we could incorporate that into a condition.
Okay, I'll hear what some of my other commissioners have to say. I have a question about the sign. In the middle there, you have like a little, I don't know, what is that, circle in your sign? What does that depict? What is that representative of?
It's the logo of the franchise in Mexico.
Okay.
It's like a little girl, and it's pink.
With the popsicle.
Yeah.
So will there be something, so there'll be something on there, it won't be plain white like this?
No.
Okay, so, and then, is that like a popsicle stick? Is
Yeah,
that
that's
that
what
is?
she's holding.
Okay, that's, okay, that sounds good. And your hours are 10 a.m. to 11 p.m.?
That's correct.
Okay. Are those kind of like your hours in your other stores?
Yeah, for the most part. In the summer, since most people are out more late in the summer, they work well, so.
Okay. I think that's all I have for now. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Stalin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have a question. I mean, I've looked at the layout of the store, and it appears that I just do not see any place to store whatever the makings are that you use to make ice cream and you're done with them, and, you know, flavoring or whatever. I don't see any place to store that kind of waste inside the rear area of your store. Do you know if you're going to have some kind of,
Para store what?
well, just the old boxes and used whipped cream canisters and... I mean, I make the assumption you're not going to be carrying every
No.
box or little...
Donde se ve eso de atrás, ¿verdad? Dile que iba a haber, donde están los contenedores de plástico chicos, dile que va a haber shelves.
Okay. So towards the back, where you see that there are plastic containers, there are going to be like shelves, and that's where they're planning on storing all the extra supplies.
But how about the used things, you know, the whatever the supplies are that you use to make ice cream when you're done with them, you know, the whipped cream making equipment or whatever, when you're done with that, where do you dispose of that inside the store? You're not going to carry each item outside. I guess my concern, Mr. Chairman, is they probably need some place to dispose of their stuff inside, and then I think there's some health regulations that you can't have refuse too close to the places where you're making stuff, so I'll just let the health department...
And the health department actually has reviewed this and was satisfied with it. So I'm not sure if the label that you're referring to is on here, but the health department has reviewed this and did not have any concerns.
Yeah, excuse me, can I say something?
Sure.
Yeah, we usually, like, always take everything, to the health department, and we just follow whatever they ask for, we always follow all the rules. We have other places, and whatever they ask for, we always, have everything, but we use a big, like, gallons, of flavor, for the ice cream, because we mostly use fresh fruit. We only, like, for the other, like, butter pecan or things like that, that doesn't have any fruit in it. that's when we use the flavors. But it's not like a lot, we don't dispose, we don't have a lot of, seriously, a lot of garbage. Like the other person was talking about the big containers, that's what we do, like at the other places in the summer. They go and pick up the garbage twice a week. But usually we only need one container and that's it. We really don't have a lot of like garbage, you know.
Andrew, could we just put a condition in just to review that again with the Health Division? Because they review the plans and indicates that the plans meet the requirements of the Health Division, but Commissioner Stylen brings up a good point.
All righty, my next question, when you're ready, Andrew.
Sure. Go ahead.
Go to the sign.
See if I have a, I ended up going the wrong
See if I
direction
can
there.
help you. It's my page 97. You got it. It looks like the law is going to be outlined in black, and the other name, is that going to be outlined in white? Or is it all going to be the same color, or?
What is it? Pero dice que está, lo de afuera está en negro, en una parte y en otra en blanco. ¿Va a ser todo en negro o va a ser todo?
Yeah.
Outline va a ser negro. Todo va a ser Ajá, las letras van a ser rojas y el outline va a ser negro.
They will all be, the main color will be red and the outline will be black for all of the letters, for La and Michoacana.
Okay, I think our report said the letters would be orange, so now you're saying the letters will be red?
Son rojas, no, no naranjadas.
They're red.
Okay. And will they be outlined in black like
Yeah.
the law is? Okay. All of the letters will be, okay.
All of the letters. Mhm.
And then my other question, the report says is that that raceway piece that the letters mount to, the report says that that will be black. And I just think that if it's black on a tannish color building, it'll stand out. I'd much rather see, you know, that raceway piece match as close as possible the color of the building.
Okay.
Did you intend it to be black, or was it more of a, you know, in the one picture it looks white, in the other picture, you know, up on top it kind of looks yellowish tannish, so.
La parte de atrás, el fierro de atrás, dice que se va a hacer todo negro porque el edificio se ve café, entonces dice que si lo puedes cambiar el color o va a ser de ese color.
Lo puedo cambiar el color, o lo puedo hacer blanco, como yo quiero.
Que no-
It was initially going to be black, but it can be changed and modified to appeal to the color in the back. To the color of the building, I'm sorry.
That would be my proposal, and I'll let
Okay.
the other petitioners comment, but the lettering would be red, and I guess it would be the trim caps and returns, Andrew, would be black? Is that the correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And I'll let the others comment on the color of the raceway. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Schaaf.
Thank you. This is all homemade ice cream. You're not selling yogurt?
No.
Or the creamy stuff? So ice cream and popsicles, looks like.
No, sí vendemos.
We do sell yogurt, not frozen yogurt, not in an ice cream way. There is one,
Lo compramos ya preparado, hecho.
yeah, we buy the prepared yogurt and they add fruit to it and we prepare it with We add fruit and granola, and that's
Oh,
Like
okay.
like a yogurt parfait.
Like a yogurt
Like a-
parfait.
Exactly.
Like the parfait.
Exactly.
So that means that it's a lot of hand dipping business that you're in?
Yes.
Right. Okay. Do you feel there's enough space outside to put tables and chairs? Or do you even plan to have an outside or tables and chairs outside?
Outside, no.
No?
No.
Okay, so it's strictly
It's
inside,
inside,
nothing outside? Because I noticed there's a mailbox there on the corner, and I don't know if the post
no.
office is going to...
No, nothing
Be happy
outside.
about that.
Okay, very good. Mr. Chairman, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Darban?
All my questions have been answered. Thank you.
Mr. Zangara?
I was just going to hit on the outdoor seating also, so I'm good.
Why have you chosen not to have outdoor seating?
We don't have the outdoor seating on any of the other locations. It's always all inside. We don't really, maybe we don't have enough space on the other ones either, or
Okay.
it's just always inside and all the other
I
locations.
just think of during the summer, sitting outside, eating an ice cream cone instead of being inside. But it's entirely up to you. You know, and we are, has our code changed yet?
No, it's going to the board again in August.
Well, it's something that a lot of, restaurants and eateries have asked about outside seating. So it's something, though, that if you choose to, you will have to come back to the village at a later date to do that. But
I mean,
All of the locations that we have are in strip mall areas where there are laundromats and hair salons. So a lot of the customers are always in and out, or they get an ice cream while they're washing their clothes. So a lot of times they're just in and out when they get the ice cream.
okay, but you do have ample seating inside.
Yeah, we do have tables and chairs inside though.
Okay. And one of the conditions, I believe, was having a trash receptacle outside. Okay, so that, just to keep the area clean.
Okay.
Great. So just back to the sign, and this is really to the commission members. You have a question first, Commissioner Steinle?
Yeah, just to follow on your outdoor seating, our current codes allows businesses of this type to have a certain number of outside seats if they wanted it. Would they actually have to come back before us to exercise that option if they so desired?
I thought they did.
Under what the commission has recommended to the board, no. That has not received final approval yet. It was grouped with another series of amendments to the code. So as it is right now, it would be a minor amendment to their site plan.
But hopefully in the future, they could do it without having to do anything.
But they would still have to come back to the village, and it would be a
It would be an administrative.
administrative type thing. They would have to come before this board again.
Right.
Right. To the sign, and this is to the commissioners, Commissioner Stylen suggested that we change the raceway to a color that matches the facade. Are we in agreement with that, Commissioner Dorban?
Yes.
Commissioner Zangara?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaaf?
Yes.
Commissioner Stylen?
Yes.
Commissioner Powers?
Yes.
Andrew, the picture that we have here does not reflect all we see is a white circle.
I would suggest, there's a couple of questions on the sign, and we don't have the sign company here with us. What I would suggest is that the sign be tabled. A sign you saw the signs at the beginning of this meeting. The sign can be approved. You don't have to come back to this board for an additional sign review. What I would like to do, though, is have your sign company update the drawing, put the logo on it, adjust the trim caps so that they're all the same color, and then we can have the commission vote on it at that time. So that's what I would suggest to the commission, is just go ahead and have the sign company update it for the next meeting.
Okay.
And
And it
table
would be on a consent agenda if it's when it's sent to the planning division. Okay. Are there any other questions? Is everybody in agreement to just table the sign?
That's fine.
Okay, great.
Mr. Chairman, can I
Yes.
make a motion to approve 2013-13, the special use and site plan approval for the ice cream restaurant?
Second?
And could you review we have a motion by Commissioner Stein and a second by Commissioner Dorban. Could you review the conditions?
Number one, that the health officer confirm that the indoor trash staging meets code requirements. And number two, that a trash receptacle is placed outside the business.
Okay, great.
And Andrew, make that inside and outside, because I didn't see a trash receptacle inside the building for public convenience.
So we have a motion by Commissioner Stein and a second by Commissioner Dorban. Mr. Secretary, would you please take the roll?
For docket 2013-13, Commissioner Stylin,
Yes.
Commissioner Dorban.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson is absent. Commissioner Powers.
Yes.
I am Commissioner Schaaf. I vote yes. Commissioner Zangara.
I vote yes.
Chairman Rafato.
Yes.
6 yes and 1 absent.
Thank you. That's it for tonight. You did great. You'll have something to sign, and then the next thing will be the sign, and that'll come before us. Okay?
Okay.
Thank
When do you anticipate opening? When do you anticipate opening?
No tenemos fecha hasta que todo esté-
There's no date yet, until everything gets approved and taken care of.
Sí, nos damos permiso,
Did-
y si nos aprueban, en un mes, después de que nos aprueben ellos, en un mes.
Sí, dile que cuando-
Says hopefully in about a month.
if every-
Welcome.
After everything is approved.
Welcome to Wheeling.
Thank
All
you very
right,
much.
thank you very much.
Yes. No.
This item the special use hearing is forwarded to the village board for their review, so the village board will vote on this. And you can be in touch with our office about the date. It'll probably be the first meeting in August at this point, okay? I have something for you to sign. Yes.
Is there a motion to close the public hearing on 2013-13?
So moved.
There a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
This key was very well done. It was very easy to follow. That was great.
Okay.
Yes.
These are kept there. With you?
Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Good luck. Thank you. Andrew, do I have to do anything with the appearance approval of the sign? It was tabled. We need a motion or anything?
I think we had a motion.
No, we didn't.
We
Do we
need
have
a
a motion to table SCBA 13-22, appearance approval of all signs?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Sorry, I thought we had that one.
no, I didn't. Calling docket number 2013-12A and B, Northgate Crossings, 100 and 250 Northgate Parkway. Gentlemen, you're up.
Let's see where we are here.
Good evening. Matt Nix, Riva Development Partners, 212 Kinsey, Chicago, Illinois, 60614. Andrew, I think do you want to flip to the end of the slides? It's like in the 30s, I think. Should be a cover slide, a little bit more. There it is.
There we go.
Yep. There it is.
What I would like to do, and I'll ask the board, Mr. Nix put together a response to some of the questions that we had, and there were 10 questions, and they were 10 comments. And what I'd like to do is to go through those at first and get those cleared up. And of course, in those questions, there are the questions about the cement board, parking, fire, storage. So I'd like to go through those. So would everybody be in agreement with that? So instead of going all over the place, let's address those concerns. And then afterwards, if there's other questions, we can, of course, address those. So we have a starting point. Are those up there or no? No?
Not, I can get them up there.
No, that's all right. I can read. So the first question was, its final plan illustrate the sidewalk along Northgate Parkway. Mr. Nix, you want to speak to that?
Sure, and I think you've all received the
Yes.
memo dated May 17th. As you said, Commissioner Raffato, we tried to respond to the listed 10
Sure.
issues to discuss. So, really a written response, the petitioner will provide the requisite sidewalk along Northgate Parkway as part of the final plan. So,
Are there any questions about the sidewalk? And I believe there was along with that, comment number 3 was investigating the possibility of TIF project to extend sidewalk to Dundee. Those two tie together. Are there any comments, questions about that? Mr. Stylen?
Yeah, especially if we're going to relate the number 3 one, where it says the petitioner will work with staff to explore the possibility of a TIF project to extend the sidewalk to Dundee. I would rather have that as a condition of our approval, that a sidewalk using TIF funds be installed down the rest of Northgate to Dundee. And if the village has to pay for it, that's fine with me. But I just think the sidewalk should be included as a recommendation in this total package.
Chairman, if I may, I do not recommend that be made a condition, perhaps a strong suggestion. The reason being that the petitioner will not have property rights, as I understand it, all the way to Dundee Road. There will be a property between it and Dundee Road, is that correct?
that's correct.
So if there's a condition that a sidewalk be installed between the property in question and Dundee, the village would have to potentially use its eminent domain authority to acquire rights to install the sidewalk, which would in effect require the village to take an affirmative act in order for these gentlemen to get their approval. I think that may be asking too much.
Well, the only thing that I can say is we had some property over in the airport area, and part of that recommendation was to install a sidewalk not even close to their property along the northern boundary going north on Milwaukee Avenue. So I think it's something that has been done in the past, and would just ask that that recommendation be included in our condition.
Yeah, and I think that if there's language that suggests that the option be explored is one thing, but requiring that it be installed as a precondition to receiving the approval would require the village to potentially undertake an eminent domain action to install a sidewalk before they could build their project.
You know, all I can tell you is that we are indeed a recommending body, and the village can choose to add or delete whatever conditions we make. And I would like to make it the strongest possible recommendation, and I will leave my recommendation as it is. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I will, at the end of this, I'll take a poll on that as to how we can possibly word that, because, well, is there any other comment about that?
Is there any word about dimensions of the sidewalk, or that will come at the final?
I would think it would certainly meet the village's code and per good planning standards.
Because, you know, we could, what, 5 foot is what, minimum? I'm not really sure.
I don't know what the comprehensive plan calls for in that area. We have various sidewalk widths around town, so.
I think the way I would suggest, if it's the commission's desire to include this recommendation to the board, number 1 and number 3, I would suggest that they remain separated. One is the standard requirement for the sidewalk directly adjacent to this property. The other is the suggestion by the commission that the village explore an additional capital improvement project south of this property. So I would suggest that additional condition just be something to the effect that I talked about last time, that the village continue to explore the possibility of a TIF project to extend the sidewalks south to Dundee. I believe that the comprehensive plan update calls for a bike lane and a 5-foot sidewalk in this location. And I think that's the approach we would take. There's a bridge that has no sidewalk facilities on it, which is probably the biggest hurdle. If we're able to design a 5-foot sidewalk, either by cantilevering or extending the bridge, I think that would be the determining factor in whether or not we could extend the sidewalk. So that's something that we do need to look into, but that would be my suggestion, is to have that suggestion carry on with the recommendation as the village attorney has recommended it.
Any other comments about the sidewalk, especially the section that is not part of the property? Any other comments? No. My comment is I would hate to put a condition in the in this that would require the village to I don't know how to put this, that ensure that the village has to do something before the petitioner can even start work on it. To me, that doesn't make sense. It doesn't. If we have a recommendation that we do that, I'm okay with that. I'm definitely not okay with a condition that says that it has to be done. Since we're here, I'll ask Commissioner Dorban.
So what you're asking is that that piece that is not under their control, that we separate that from the project, correct?
Well, no. What Commissioner Steinle is asking for is a condition that says that that has to be put in as a condition to building this.
No.
Commissioner Zangara?
No.
Mr. Schaaf?
No.
Commissioner Steinle?
Yes.
Commissioner Powers?
Yes.
I say no. So it's 4-2. Put a recommendation. A strong suggestion, however you want to word that. I think you had it worded correctly.
And that is, we are at, let me just double check because we skipped a little bit. I would say go back to number 2 then.
Yes, I'm going back to number 2. Those are tied together because sidewalk is a sidewalk on that property and the other property. That a fence is added along the west property line. Petitioner said that we add the fence along the west property line, which shall consist of 6-foot board on board, cedar construction or equal. Any comments on number 2?
Yes.
Commissioner Dorbin?
If it's going to be cedar, then we're going to make it cedar. I don't want, or equal. I want to know exactly what it's going to be.
I would agree. Commissioner Steinle?
And is there any fence provided along the north side of the property or the south side of the property along the boundaries with the creek on those sides?
There's not a fence proposed right now. There's a decent stand of trees on both ends that we would try to, promote a naturalized buffer, I think.
And the only reason that you're doing a fence on the west side is because there's no vegetation over there?
Well, I mean, certainly the recommendation we thought made sense, and it helps to create that buffer on the west.
And what about on the south side?
The south side would be the river, and then the vegetation along the river, I think. And now, to the extent that there's development further on the south side, I think it's probably going to be consistent with the MXT, and we'd probably want to, frankly, integrate with the future development versus putting a fence between the uses.
I guess my only concern is why do we have a fence, solid fence on the west side if we're looking for vegetation and I would much prefer evergreen trees and stuff like that to try to block the sound from the railroad tracks than.
I think it's really kind of a combination of visual barrier, and then certainly it's going to be, landscape to create that buffer as well, in addition to the fence.
I mean, the railroad tracks are a little bit higher than your property, right?
I think if it's not at grade, a little higher, but there's also some modest berming going on there as well.
Yeah,
So I think it's really a combination of creating a visual buffer, along with, certainly enhanced landscaping, just to make it a...
I mean, I think a lot of landscaping would do a lot more to buffer the sound and stuff than the fence. And I'm not sure that if they provide sufficient landscaping that a fence is even needed, but I'll let the other petitioners comment.
May I add, have you thought about putting in like a big berm and then landscaping the top of that berm to even make more of a sound barrier?
We have, and we talked a little bit about that at the last meeting. It's kind of a balance of making the engineering work. You may recall there's the diversion channel, so berming up and coming down, we kind of had to match the grades. There's a small berm, there's a couple small berms, to the extent that we could accomplish them, we agree with you. It helps just to create that buffer.
Are you going to landscape on the top of those berms?
Yeah, oh, yes.
Okay. I guess I'm asking that because we have one other, condos, and they put in a big berm with landscaping, and it was very thick on the landscaping, and so it gave the homeowners in the back much more sound protection and not only sound protection, but they wanted a barrier between the two, between the condos and the houses. And I just hope that it's going to be a really thick barrier there for sound especially.
Sure. Being preliminary approval, we, fully intend to propose a very detailed final landscape plan that will, certainly meet all the requirements, but that's an important thing for us to do as well, make, every aspect of the site attractive. So Thank you.
Okay.
I can't remember actually who asked about a fence.
I probably did.
And your logic, and I'll be honest with you, I don't,
I think because of the lack, because I think of the lack of the berm, I wanted some kind of, like sound barrier in there, but if it's going to be heavily landscaped, I mean, I probably will be okay with that, but it's gotta be, you know, really heavily screened. And if it was, because I'm not sure exactly where the berm is, I don't know if you're gonna put it on top, the landscaping on top of a berm somehow, but as long as, you know, it's landscaped, I mean, I'm not even sure, you know, 8-foot evergreens or something, I'm really not sure. Just gotta be really heavily landscaped.
any other comments about the fencing? Is there a general consensus that it's needed? Is it something that we want as a board? Commissioner Dorbin?
You mean, do we want a fence?
Yes.
If I could be guaranteed that they would put up a big enough berm and it would be, there's be enough evergreen and enough vegetation in there to create a big enough buffer, then I would be okay with the evergreens or a mixture of overhead trees with the evergreens, just without having a fence. But it would have to be really, really thick to make me happy.
Commissioner Zangara?
The fence to me, personally, if we're talking about a walking path around it, you got the berm, the fence kind of is nice to me because it makes that boundary, but it doesn't have to be there, but I personally like it because then you're kind of distracting. If you're on that bike path, you don't have direct vision to a train coming by. So personally, in my opinion, I feel like I like the fence, but like I said, it's an opinion.
That's why we're here. Commissioner Schaaf?
Well, I like the fence because it just creates an additional barrier.
Commissioner Steinle?
I'll go with whatever the commission recommends.
Great, thank you. And Commissioner Powers?
I really think I'm going to stick with the fence because that'll be kind of a deterrent from people trying to come in through the.
Andrew, can we make this in a way that, you know, as we go to final for landscape, that
Privacy.
we can eliminate that fence, you know, leave it in there, and then at final, if we see that they have sufficiently landscaped it to our satisfaction. To me, it just seems odd that if we're just doing a fence on the west side, why aren't we doing north side, south side? A fence to nowhere. But it seems the consensus is that the fence should be there if there is if the landscaping is not sufficient.
And I think, if I recall the discussion the last time around, there was a concern about the noise, and I think
Right.
that the consensus was that the fence provided the best way to bounce the noise back toward the tracks. The berm certainly is going to deflect that as well. So what I would suggest is language, to your point, that a 6-foot cedar board-on-board fence is added along the west property line and can be eliminated at final should the western area include adequate berming and evergreen plantings.
Thank you.
Gives you the-
And if I may, when the board reviews the preliminary PUD approval, they could also send their recommendation back down as part of the final approval that this committee will make, or commission rather, will make a recommendation on.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. Number 4 is irrigation, and final plat will final landscape plan will reflect that. Any comments about the irrigation? No. Number 5, petitioner investigates a walking path for perimeter. Current plan shows a 5-foot curb, attached sidewalk around the entire inner perimeter of the property. In addition, there are multiple internal pathways offering attractive and convenient pedestrian circulation among residential buildings and clubhouse amenities and parking areas. Petitioner will work with staff to explore additional pathway on the western boundary. Comments? Commissioner Powers?
And I would add one thing to that.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir.
I realized, and we would also, so to do something along the western boundary, maybe it's a, crushed ground, crushed stone or wood chip, and then it would also could easily head east along the river through the floodway and connect to the sidewalk, so we're fine with that.
Commissioner Powers?
Thank you. Andrew, could you pull up the site plan, and can you show where the 5-foot curb attached sidewalk around the entire inner perimeter? I'm having a hard time following what that is.
Yeah, if you look, while I'm flipping through this, if you look at the site plan, there is a walkway around the parking lots. And let me see if we have a good one, probably from the original set of slides up here.
Yeah, it's
The color site plan is probably the best one. I don't know. So if you look at this area here, I'll blow that up real quick. So if you look here, this white line is a 5-foot walkway. And that's what they're referring to there, is that there's a perimeter walkway here.
Okay.
So one of the things that we discussed with the petitioner is where that walkway doesn't necessarily connect, maybe have an additional connector to sort of fill out the perimeter. And then, as Mr. Nix just mentioned, they were talking about a crushed stone type of path that might be able to connect along the back of the property and then across this floodway.
Yeah, I would be okay with that.
Any other comments? Commissioner Stein, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I would just rather see an unobstructed path around the whole outside perimeter of the property where you don't have to cross, streets and parking lots and stuff like that. It would just seem to be a very nice, long path to meander around the entire outside of the property.
Well, can that be connected, can the north and south property lines be connected to the sidewalk that you have? That you're putting?
What we would recommend is that the path around the perimeter start at the northwest corner, continue to the south, and then head east along the southern property boundary through the floodway. We are dealing both with grade and physical distances here. So on the north side, because of the way the site is engineered, there is a slope down to the property line. We also have to deal with the Cook County Stormwater Management Ordinance in controlling the unreleased runoff. So as we go along the western property boundary, you actually go down before you go up so that we can keep the water on our site. So we are in favor, and will work to engineer a path that picks up approximately at this point around the perimeter of the site and connects to the north-south sidewalk. Where it gets much more constrained is in this area here. So we would recommend that we tie back into the internal sidewalks and then cross over at this point, meeting up with the overall pathway system. We also have need to install a fire lane, and you can see that there's already pathways through the green space, so there could be a loop here.
So, okay. And here's what I'm asking. So if you said you're going to tie to the 5-foot walkway somewhere on the northwest corner, tie back into the north, and then heading east, can there be a path from that 5-foot walkway to the sidewalk on the north side?
On the north side,
North side,
there are a couple of changes.
right there.
Right here, they're pursuant to the request by the fire department, we anticipate installing a gated, emergency-only roadway connection to Northgate Parkway to address one of the fire department concerns. So we would be able to, at that point, connect the sidewalk to this existing
Right.
sidewalk, and then you cross over here, continue on this sidewalk, which follows the inside curb. At that point, we have enough room to get across the street and pick up a pathway around the perimeter that continues all the way down to the south, and from the south back to the east, connecting to the 5-foot sidewalk along Northgate.
I have a comment.
So essentially, it's only the north side where we have an issue.
Right, and actually, you satisfy, in my eyes, you satisfy that by connecting that 5-foot walkway to the sidewalk.
Yep.
Commissioner Schaaf?
Okay, if you're going to go from the outside to the inside, I don't really have a problem with that, but I would like that marked.
Oh, sure.
With a walkway
Crosswalk.
across the street to pick up that inner sidewalk. Okay, that should be marked and designated
Understood.
for crosswalk.
Any other comments?
And you said that would be like a crushed stone, right? Because like if you got to the southern part, then you're kind of talking, if you had like water from like flooding, that would kind of like be a spillage area, right? So that could get flooded. So
Correct.
that's why you would go with that type of material, correct?
Correct.
Any other comments? Number 6, some indication of potential use of floodplain to the south. Petitioner anticipates using such areas, uses such as beach volleyball court, dog park, exercise area. I hope those aren't in the same area.
It was dog park, dog exercise.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was actually thinking about the volleyball court more so than the dog, along with the passive green space. Any comments? My comment is, do the specifics have to be on the final?
No, I think at this point, what we're looking for is just establishing a record that the Planning Commission and the petitioner are in agreement that that south area can be used for recreational purposes. They've identified a dog area, dog run, dog walking area, and volleyball, some sort of active recreation and passive recreation combination. I think that's sufficient at this point. Even on the final plan, you could have, I believe, in my opinion, a condition that says they can use that south area for recreational purposes.
Okay, great. Those were the easy ones. Number 7 and 8. Well, 7. Examples of addresses of cement fiberboard use. I believe you have given us examples and going through. Hopefully, and everybody had sufficient time. They were given some addresses shortly after the meeting. Hopefully, everybody had sufficient time to look at those. We have some examples here, and if you want to explain them, that's fine.
Sure. I also want to pass out a sample. The picture of the home on the screen right now is it's a home built at Southgate on the Glen, Glenview, Illinois. It was finished in 2002. I was responsible for the development and construction of that home. The owner selected hardy siding. Might note that the market value of that house is probably in excess of $1 million. They chose it specifically in lieu of cedar, which was an alternate. In fact, that home, as it stands today, the trim, which is cedar, was restained 2 years ago. The siding has not been touched in 11 years, and it still looks terrific. As a builder and developer, I'm a big fan of the use of cement fiber boards in lieu of cedar, in lieu of a wood product for a variety of reasons. Appearance, consistency, doesn't rot, doesn't split, doesn't warp, no termites, doesn't burn, it doesn't melt, doesn't get damaged by hail, and the finish lasts a heck of a lot longer than on a natural wood product. I do have some other detail shots here, also homes in the Glen. This is a cement fiber siding. That's a natural cedar shake. You can see here, this is also natural cedar shake and cement fiber siding. The pictures don't necessarily do it justice, but if you go out there in person, you can see that there's weathering to the natural cedar, whereas the cement fiber has the appearance of wood that's recently been finished or refinished. So it holds up over time. Again, these are better close-up shots of the home, 2867 Independence in Glenview. You can see again, the look of the siding is, even 11 years later, terrific. Kind of heavy, but we did put together a sample board, not necessarily the colors, but the differentiation. So you can see the masonry veneer at the bottom. That is the Hardie lap siding in the blue. The greenish color is the Hardie shake appearance, and then it's the Hardie trim, which is in the cream color, and then the composite asphalt shingle on top. That is a vinyl window. As you can see with the screen on the outside, it's a single hung window, so the bottom sash is operable.
Just if I could just add, the staff had sent some material to the commission the week before. I did find out that one of the buildings that we had suggested, one of the Barrington examples, is a 2007 building. So that's a commercial building that was relatively old compared to the Long Grove building, which was a little bit newer. I think Long Grove was completed, I want to say, 3 years ago. The building in Barrington, though, was a little bit older than that. We did also get in touch with the manufacturer of the product. We got some additional material specifications. Of course, being the manufacturer, they do have promotional material. So we tried to separate out promotional material from the additional materials that they provided us. And we did contact some builders that have had experience in the village to get their review of the material. And generally speaking, confirmed across all of those sources, the material is durable. It does require specialized installation skill. They do certify their installers, not just this particular manufacturer, but other manufacturers certify the installers. So it is hard to find someone who is capable of installing it, but once installed properly, the reviews tend to be very good.
Any other comments about anything? Comments from the board?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Schaaf?
Thank you. I will agree that it's better than wood, EIFS, siding, anything. It is, in my opinion, it is not masonry. It is not brick. It's not cement slab. Whether we could recommend that or not it makes no difference. But I would like to go on record that it is not masonry.
I would agree. It's not masonry. It's a cement.
Right.
It's a cement fiber product, but it's not technically.
I agree. It's better than EIFS. It's better than wood siding or anything. And in the long run, it could measure up to masonry. but it is not. And I understand where we came from the consent agenda, as far as the code goes, being 80%. That's beside the point. Just my record, or on record with me, this is not masonry. Thank you.
Any other comments? Mr. Steiler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, I think there are certain points of this material that are very attractive. I mean, it can look like stone, it can look like cedar shingles, it can look like vinyl siding, it can look like brick, you can make it look like a lot of materials. And I like that ability to have that flexibility. But I've read a lot of comments on the internet. I don't know how valid they are one way or another, but they talk about thicknesses. Some of the material is 4.5 millimeters. Some of the material is 18 millimeters. Some of the material, if it's too thin, then it's flexible and it cracks, which causes problems over time. If it's too thick, it's very difficult to handle, it's very heavy, etc. There's other problems with some of the material comes pre-stained, so you don't have to paint it. Other material comes, you have to paint or stain or whatever however you go about finishing it. And then they talk about if something does happen, if somebody throws a rock or a stone or a brick or a pipe or something heavy at it and it gets damaged, then you have to replace the whole panel as opposed to just patching a section. I have no idea if any of those things are true or if all those things are true, but if we don't have any real good experience with saying, is your material too thick or too thin? I don't know that we have, at least I don't have that kind of experience. And the things that I saw on the internet seem to say that there's still a lot of problems between manufacturers and stuff like that. I don't know that I'm ready yet to commit to that product as being a good product. I think there's too many little dangling things that are unknown at this time. So I have a worry about that material. It's my concern, Mr. Chairman.
Any other comments? Well, first, I of course have comments. One, we have used this within the village, so we're not being very consistent in how we're addressing this. And Commissioner Steinle, I know you'll say, well, now's the time to address that. I'm not certain, because on what is on the internet, I don't know if there's independent organizations out there that that can address these issues. But I guess I'm going to ask the question. It started out, we've gone a number of ways on this. One, was it masonry? And it has been included as part of the percentage of what is masonry, I believe, to meet the, is it 75% or 80%, Mr. Jennings?
You're 75% for this.
75%. So this was included as masonry. So am I correct in that assumption?
The way I would phrase it is that there's a minimum building material standard that includes masonry, glass, stucco.
Right.
This product and a couple of other products have been approved in the past in the Village of Wheeling to satisfy that requirement.
We, this board, did that.
Yes.
Okay. So just clarification there. We have, in the past, approved this as being part of masonry. Be that as it may, I guess I would ask the question from an appearance, and I know Commissioner Steinle questions the durability, but from an appearance and durability, is that material, would we want that on our buildings? That's, I'm going to ask. Me personally, I've seen the buildings that were suggested. Now, we haven't seen an old one. I personally think it looks very nice. It gives flexibility as to what you can do as far as character. We have shakes, we have, looks like siding. I think it gives us chances for variation. Then the next question is, do we include that as part of the masonry? And if not, then are we looking at some code relief because it's not going to be 75%? There's a lot of interpretation there, but I would like to right now discuss as a board, is this a material that we want to see on these buildings specifically? Because if not, then we'll move on to the next thing and figure out what we're going to do there. Commissioner Dorban?
As far as appearance, no, I don't care for it. And durability, I have my concerns about it. And the fact that we have asked other developers of new construction to meet a code where we used brick, I think we need to do the same thing in this particular instance.
Okay. Commissioner Zangara?
I personally like the material. As far as installation, durability, that all comes into construction, because I've seen examples of masonry being done wrong and masonry get exploded. So to me, the durability, the appearance, I personally like it. I personally have never dealt with it, but I've gone and seen it, and I've done some research through my office, and it seems like it does stand the test of time, and I personally would, I don't mind it.
Commissioner, sorry, Commissioner Schaaf.
I like the appearance part of it. I think it does give you a lot of flexibility. I am still of the opinion it is not masonry. I do like the fact that it does give you all that flexibility. The only way it's going to do, in my mind, is to use it and see what it does. It's a lot better than EIFS or wood or the alternatives.
Thank you. Commissioner Steinle?
Do you have any idea, I mean, the big question that I saw was the thickness of the material has something to do with it. Do you know what the thickness of the material that you will be using is?
The samples we provided you are the thickness of the material. The lap siding and the shingles come in a standard thickness. And I'm not exactly sure what that specification is. The manufacturer offers a 30-year warranty on that product.
Well, again, do you know if this is closer to 4.5 millimeters or 18 millimeters?
Closer to 4.5.
That's closer, certainly that's closer to 4.5. If you look at the cross-section of the trim piece, that's much thicker. And I acknowledge the trim pieces, because they're dense, they're heavy, they're harder to handle than wood. They have to be you have to exercise more care than you would, because if you don't handle them properly, they may crack. They will crack prior to installation. It's the installer's issue. Once they're on, they don't move. That's the beautiful thing about it. Vinyl expands and contracts with the heat. Wood, rots, splits, warps, you get knots. This stuff, it doesn't move. It's
Yeah,
cement, it's, you know, it's inorganic, it's cement fiber. Once it's on there, applied properly, maintained, you know, stained periodically, but as noted here, it's been 11 years, hasn't been touched.
Yeah, I just think that we need to know what the specifications of the product are.
The manufacturer doesn't offer, to my knowledge, doesn't offer differing thicknesses of their siding or their panel. What you see is what they provide, at least in the case of Hardie. And similarly with Louisiana Pacific, it's a similar thickness. The trim boards are just larger than, just greater than an inch in thickness. That's what I said, those are a little more dense. You have to be careful when handling those, lest they crack.
I'm sure the
prior to
manufacturer
handling.
must have specifications for their product.
Sure, but in terms of offering a variety of thicknesses, they manufacture to a standard.
I would just like to know what those are so in the future, we have some comparison. You know, I don't know what we've done in the past. I didn't even know that there were different thicknesses until, you know.
And if I may, I think that this kind of level of detail is also put more to the permitting process where the building department in the village will look and determine whether the specifications of the materials meet the village's codes regarding the quality of the building, as opposed to here where we're talking about the plan for the site and the development.
As much as it sounded good, but I disagree with you. I like the product, but Commissioner Steiner makes a good point. It's if he has seen that, he knows that there's differences, and I think it's important for us to know that information. Just
If the commission receives additional information and decides that it doesn't like this material, at the concept review phase, it's already approved, and so is the board, the percentage of masonry and non-masonry on the project. So I'm not sure what could be changed at that point in this regard.
I just looked it up on the web for the board. This particular product, the developer is correct. There are only two thicknesses. One is designed as a product for the Gulf Coast, and the other one is designed where it's exposed to ice and snow. There is only one particular dimension associated with use in our area.
Interesting. Thank you. Thanks, Chief. Want to join the board? No. Thank you.
And among just while we're on the topic, among the various things that the manufacturer provided us were, I don't know how many pages of the testing that it has gone through, similar to any other product, before it's classified for exterior use in a given area. I personally do not know what it means. I do know that the end result of it was that it did get approved for the use, and it is part of the Uniform Building Code and the IBC. It's a recognized. It's been around for probably 20 years in this form. We've got it on buildings in this village. It has met our requirements elsewhere. We have it on numerous single-family homes as well, but it's been used in commercial buildings here too.
So Commissioner Stylen, I'm still looking from a definitive comment from you. You heard that now that there's only one thickness and that's it. So it's closer to 4.5 millimeters. Your stand on it?
I just want to know in the future if somebody comes in and says, I'm going to build it with some other manufacturer that makes 2 millimeters, are we going to accept that? What is the standard? If you want to accept whatever this size is or this manufacturer says as the minimum standard that we will accept, that's okay with me, okay? I just want to know what that standard is because it seems to be varied across manufacturers.
Well, I guess, but that's more of a code question.
Exactly.
And we're not addressing code here. I'm trying to address the use of that, just specifically the use in this development. And we can't address the code right now. And according to what their site says, is that's the one thickness that they make. Well, I'm sorry, two. East Coast, hurricanes, salt, and of course the wonderful Midwest and West. So, again, is that material acceptable for this use?
If they are going to go with this manufacturer, James Hardie, that only makes the one size material, I am willing to test it out.
Great.
Okay? But if it comes in, they said part of their stuff comes in a thicker, part of their stuff comes in a thinner. We've got two sizes here already, I just want to know which one we're using.
It's valid, and then we need to look at our code, too. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Powers.
All I'll say is when I think of masonry, I also think of brick. Although the appearance does look good, but we have asked other people to do, to use brick. And because this is so close to our town center, I'd really like to see brick. I'm not saying that this couldn't be used somewhere else, but just not in this particular location.
Yes.
The question, and that's what it brings up. Would this material looking like brick be sufficient?
For me, probably not. I'm just one person on this commission.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said, Steve.
Would
I
that?
said no.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Commissioner
No,
Powers.
Terry asked if that looked like brick, would my feelings be any different? And I said no. But I also am only one person on this commission, too.
Thank you. And I am in favor of using this material on this site and on this proposal. But my interpretation is that it's not masonry. So I don't think, and to that point, we have 4 in favor and 2 not in favor. But I'm not in favor of...
4 in favor of what?
Of using this
Okay.
on this property. But I am not in favor of considering this as as part of the percentage of masonry. So the question is, what does that then bring this percentage down to? And I would assume that we would need some code relief. The petitioner would need code relief.
So, based on the review of the appearance, making a positive recommendation with the appearance, if it's the consensus of the commission that the code in this case is being varied in conjunction with the PUD, similar to the variation for the number of buildings on a lot, similar to the variation we've discussed relating to the covered parking requirement. You could list that out on the code relief table as being a reduction in the minimum requirement, meaning then the material is acceptable for use in this plan unit development. It's the belief of the commission then that it is a reduction from that requirement. For a future date, we could discuss the exact language of this code. That's not necessarily something that the petitioner needs to be involved in. So if that's the consensus of the commission, that's the modification we would make, is that table of code relief would have one more item on it.
Okay. So I'm going to ask the board, one by one, if they're in favor of this code relief. Commissioner Powers.
Before we start the poll,
Yes.
the question is, are you in favor of recommending approval of the code relief?
Yes, for the masonry. Recommendation.
Can I ask a question first?
Sure.
And I don't know if it's appropriate to put our fire department on the hot seat or not.
Why not? They're here.
No pun intended. Compared to brick, what kind of, is this fireproof, more fireproof, less fireproof? Is it equal?
This product is more fire resistive than your traditional vinyl or wood siding or other composite materials. It's probably not as much of a relevant discussion, fire resistive in this project, because the rest of the construction with this building is type 5 construction, wood frame construction with drywall. But these buildings will be fully sprinklered, and they will also have full fire alarm systems within them. Recognize that this is the exterior of the building, and the likelihood of fire spreading from outside the building in is a more rare event here than it is perhaps, say, out west, where wildland fires are an issue.
Thank you. Okay, I'm sorry.
No, actually, I was thinking that when the chief mentioned it, and I'm glad you brought it up. Thank you. So, Commissioner Powers, the question on the table is, would you be in favor of one of the variations being code relief to the percentage of masonry on the buildings?
No.
Okay. Commissioner Steilen.
I'm going to say no for now.
Okay.
Keep it simple.
Commissioner Schaaf.
I would be in favor of code relief.
Commissioner Zangara.
Yes.
Commissioner Dorban.
No.
And I would be in favor of code relief. So, I don't know where that puts us. It's 3-3.
Could I get a clarification? Because I heard some different things.
Yes.
I heard Commissioner Steilen say this should not be counted towards the masonry. But then I heard you say that it should be petition for code relief. Are those two distinct questions?
No. What I asked was, would the commission be in favor of, if we said that this hardy board was not masonry, would they be in favor of code relief? Because you're now under the 75%.
Yeah.
And right now it's 3-3. So how does that go, Andrew?
What I would recommend, 3-3 on a code relief. The petitioner has requested a certain appearance. The commission has, on the whole, I would say the consensus at 4-2 was use of the material. What I would suggest is make a recommendation to the board that includes the use of cement fiberboard added to code relief. It's implied by the answer to the first code, the first poll. So I would say between those two polls, what you're doing is implying that it should be accepted by the answer to the first. So I would say, given the tie on the second, that would be an appropriate recommendation.
And I guess, and I asked the question at the outset, and I probably should have asked it last week or the week before. Where does this bring them? Does it bring them down to 70%, and they add a number of courses of brick to bring it up to 75%? Because if it's that easy, then there's no code relief.
That's a good point.
And I guess
With the overall appearance of the building, not to say that it doesn't matter, but if the overall appearance, as they presented it, is acceptable, the number of the code relief would be as needed to match that appearance. So if the consensus of the board ultimately, the consensus of the board is ultimately that the distribution of the materials is acceptable, we can certainly calculate that out. You've got garage doors, which we have to calculate out. You've got glass. which is factored in. You've got a stone, I think there's a stone separating between the brick. So there's a couple of things we'd have to
Well, wouldn't it be
figure
easier to just take where the cementitious board is and then subtract that out?
out. That'd be one way.
I mean, because that to me would be the easiest thing to do, instead of worrying about what's there. What did we include for masonry? And we included everything that's brick and everything that's cementitious board. You probably know approximately what that square footage is and determine that. Commissioner Steinle.
Not to confuse things any more than we're already confused, but I think looking back over history, right, the reason why we went to stone and brick was to get away from aluminum, vinyl, and wood type sidings. We wanted something that was a lot more durable, that would stand the test of time, if you will. And so we went to brick and stone, right? Then precast concrete panels came out, right? And we decided to try those. And you know what? They looked like brick. They stood the test of time looking like brick. As a matter of fact, they might be better than brick because they don't effervesce or whatever, that white stuff that comes out of brick all the time. So when I look at this project, I mean, we already said we think it might be okay for use, but do we also need to say maybe we need to change the look of the buildings to maybe be a little more brickish, stonish looking than cedar, shingle, vinyl siding looking? Would that be sufficient to say it looks like stone, it looks like brick, it acts like stone, it acts like brick, it's got some masonry stuff in it? If it actually looked like brick, wouldn't that count towards our over, 75% percentage? If it looked like vinyl siding, I don't think it would count towards my 75%, but if it looked like brick, it looked like stone.
Well, the strict interpretation of the code is that it's masonry. That's a strict interpretation. So what you're saying is that give the petitioners relief, make it look like stone.
Maybe.
Okay. Noodle on that.
Just a thought.
Any other comments?
I can see Terry's point, and I'd be more willing to lean toward accepting that if it looked like brick to me.
In the interest of moving this particular issue along, the concept drawing is substantially similar to this drawing. So the concept that they originally proposed had a mix of materials illustrated on it. It varied from both the vertical sections and the horizontal design lines on the building. I think that, with the consensus of the commission, although mixed, the consensus is that the appearance, the way that this looks is acceptable. The board had seen a similar drawing when it went for concept review. I think that that condition as written can be forwarded to the board, and the board can combine their original review with these findings and make a decision that would guide the final at this point.
And that condition is?
While number 7 on our list here, while the commission is in favor of the proposed appearance, cement fiberboard is to be added to the code relief table for final PUD to address the reduction under the minimum masonry requirement.
Comments about that?
I think it's a moot point. I think the concept review has already said that this is the mix.
Right.
And it's done. It's done. That's it.
Well, if that's the case, we should have stopped this conversation 15 minutes ago. But that's not the case, because that interpretation is something that I personally don't agree with. So that condition is staying in there. You know, I know our attorney has said that, but I find, you know, it's not something that was specifically discussed at the concept review that said that this was acceptable. So I'm going with, if anything, I'm going with this. Any comments about the appearance as far as possibly bringing in the look in it, you know, and I know some of the examples that you showed had a brick appearance. Have you thought about anything down that path?
We're very comfortable with the design as proposed. We think there's look, it's all a matter of personal preference. My personal preference is that a combination of materials provides more visual interest, and that's what we've tried to do here, both materials and colors. I find when buildings are 100% masonry, they become much more institutional looking and less inviting, less akin to a private residence.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments about the fiberboard, cementitious fiberboard? All right, we have some conditions that we'll probably review.
And we are at number 8 on the memo.
Thank you. Ratio of covered parking. Would you like to discuss that a little bit in depth? You have some examples.
Sure. Well, maybe if I could just share, you know.
If you could speak into the microphone.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
We were asked to take a look at the ratio of covered parking, and we did that. We went back to the original market study generated by Appraisal Research. We looked at our internal marketing and noted essentially what we call our 5 primary comparable projects. We look at existing projects where residents will be going there, shopping those projects against ours based on the merits, location, livability of the community. And we have also looked at proposed projects being built in the marketplace. Of those 5 projects representing a little over 2,200 apartment units within roughly a 3.5-mile radius, two of the 5 projects offer covered parking. 3 don't offer any covered parking at all. Now, these are comparable projects that were all built within the last 20 years. And it's one of the points that I touched on that and within those product types, there are mid-rise buildings, which are generally, they're 4 to 6 stories tall, elevator served, much larger buildings with more units. And then there are more residential garden apartments similar to what we're proposing, lower in scale, 2 to 3 story buildings, which is really the density, the lifestyle, the kind of character of our project. Of all the similar character low-rise garden communities, none of them offer any covered parking. So it really goes back to the couple of mid-rises are the only ones that are offering covered parking. Those are in the footprint of the building, much larger building. So it's really a structural issue, how you can deliver that 1-to-1 ratio. More importantly, we looked at the marketplace. We looked at what the rents were commanding for garage parking versus the demand. And ultimately, we landed on, consistent with our original approach, we looked at all the units in the marketplace. Approximately 32% of those units have an available covered parking space, which just so happens is the exact ratio we're proposing. So again, it really boils down to a trade-off. Where do you want to invest in amenities, in architecture, in interior design build-out, and we've made the decision to meet that market. We believe that there is market demand for that roughly 30%, covered indoor garage, but we've also made enhancements. We've included elevators in our buildings, not because of code, because we think the market will respond above and beyond our competition. We're putting granite countertops and stainless steel appliances and a 7,000 square foot clubhouse because we believe that's where the investment belongs and that's what our residents will respond to.
Thank you. Comments? Mr. Stadler?
Don't you guys ever raise your hand at all? I still, as I said last time, I think the ratio needs to be increased. And the one example that you didn't bring forward was your Oak Village, whatever.
The Oaks of Vernon Hills?
In Vernon Hills. What is it? The Oaks?
The Oaks of Vernon Hills, yes.
The Oaks of Vernon Hills, which is a 304 unit complex. And can you tell me what your ratio of indoor parking is for that site?
Sure.
Compared to our ratio?
Well, I guess there's one distinction there. That project includes two different product types. There is a product type exactly like this, a 32-unit building with a mix of 69% one bedrooms, 31% two bedrooms, 20, I'm sorry. And it's also got 10 garages, 32 units, so it's identical ratio. The distinction in that project has 256 or 8 buildings similar to this. The distinction is that we're also building a tuck-under townhome product, which is a 3-story product, 2-car garage underneath, second-level living, third-level bedrooms. So it's sort of a ubiquitous for-sale townhome product. So those have two garages per unit.
But it is a rental, right?
It is a rental, yes.
But the ratio, the covered parking ratio for that unit is much greater than, or I'll just say, it's greater than the covered parking ratio for our unit.
Sure, and that's being marketed specifically to a townhome resident, a resident that is moving into that product because it's exactly like the townhome that they would have otherwise been purchasing. Whereas the multifamily buildings with almost 70% one-bedroom units is targeted to a different resident.
I would much rather see, again, I talked about mixed use versus single-use looking type thing. I would much rather see the Oaks kind of concept that increases the perceived mix of uses and also does increase the parking ratio. So I think you could cover two of my concerns by going in that direction.
And I agree with you in terms of the ratio relative to the product type. A townhome product typically would have 2 cars. A townhome product is with 3 bedrooms is typically catering to a family, probably a couple with 2 cars, with children, with all the things that come along with children. Whereas these buildings with almost 70% one bedrooms aren't at all targeting that market.
But you have the exact same buildings with the exact same ratio in Vernon Hills. All I'm saying is I'd like to have that same mix here.
Well, but to be clear, the Vernon Hills product has the exact same building with the exact same mix that we're proposing here. It just has another product, basically a townhome component as well.
But the overall project has a better parking ratio. So that's it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Mr. Chef.
Thank you. The assumption of one person in a one-bedroom, that's your thinking. And see, mine is 2 people in a one-bedroom. I can see there is going to be some type of a mix. And in my thinking, if you have 2 people in a one-bedroom, you're going to have 2 cars. And one of them's going to be outside, one of them's going to be inside. I really believe you need more garages in this project than what you have stated.
Any other comments?
I would have to agree with Norm. I agree that there has to be more covered parking.
Any other comments? To the Commissioner Styling, and I know what you stated, but I think the petitioner stated at the last meeting that the market, your words were, the market would not, I'm not putting, maybe I'm my own words, the market would not sustain the development here that you have in Vernon Hills.
Well, I think we're really we're trying to respond to the supply and demand. This product is marketed primarily to young professionals working up and down the corporate corridor that value the transit-oriented nature of the site, that they value the proximity to their employers, and that's primarily our objective.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Zangari, your thoughts on parking?
I think the parking is adequate.
To the microphone, please.
Sorry. Personally, I've been looking over the drawings, and Vernon Hills is the first, I guess, prototype of this type of building with the garage parking in an apartment setting.
Well, our company is a relatively new company. I've been in the business for 20 years. The garden apartment, 2- and 3-story walk-up product is ubiquitous throughout not only Chicagoland, but the Midwest and the greater United States. And this product type that generally has 25 or 20 to 30% of the units are supplied with an indoor direct access garage. So there are hundreds and thousands of units and buildings like this built throughout the United States.
Because getting to the point of 2 people staying in 1 bedroom, if someone is renting a garage space, are they allowed to park in front of the garage space also?
Yes.
So technically, they do have 2 spots with one, not covered, but they do have 2 spots.
By default, you automatically get that apron parking space.
So I'm pretty comfortable.
Commissioner Powers?
Pretty much with Commissioner Schaaf. Need more covered parking.
Okay. And I am very comfortable with the parking also. Mr. Jennings, it sounds like that there's 3 that have said that needed additional parking in this proposal. There's one, Commissioner Stylen, who feels that mixing a townhouse development with this would be a better proposal to increase the ratio.
But bottom line,
Is
I
you
believe
want-
the ratio should
Right.
be increased.
You know, and I guess, you know, when we approved this the last time, our code, we would look at these as on an individual by individual basis, and each petitioner coming in, and I guess we have done that. So I'm not certain which way to go on this, but is there anything more that you could propose here for this, to move this? Because as you can hear, it's not a consensus, definitely. It's more of a consensus of having additional covered parking.
I think that this is a product that we've designed specifically for this marketplace. We've consulted and done a great extent of market research. We feel very strongly about, this product, and it's the right mix to be a successful project.
Okay, thank you.
Take 5.
Why don't we take 5 minutes if you don't mind?
Sure.
We have a 5-minute break. Gotten them some water. To just close out the issue with the parking is that, as you heard, the consensus of the board is that they want the ratio of the parking, they would like to see the ratio of the parking increased. You've stated your facts and figures, but the consensus of the board is that they want the ratio increased. So, Mr. Jennings, some wording that will go into this, into our recommendation. And as you know, it's a recommendation to the board.
So the building design has carried with it a parking layout that sets the ratio. There are probably a couple of ways, as was discussed at the last meeting, to adjust it. It's units down, parking up. So I think rather than set specific language that determines that, based on the fact that there's kind of a split decision, I would suggest language similar to what was from the last commission meeting, that the petitioner work to increase the ratio. And then the board can look at that recommendation and make a determination. If it's the board's consensus on review of your market demand analysis, then you can discuss with the board their preference of how to actually achieve that. But as it stands, there's a split on this particular body of how to best arrange that. So I would suggest that, like I said, similar language to the previous, to the continuation, that the petitioner work to increase the ratio of covered parking.
Provide detail on the storage. Petitioner will provide 32 individual storage areas for a 32-unit building as requested by the Plan Commission. In addition to the 10 individual garages, there will not be less than 22 individual storage areas within each building, which shall be further defined in the final building plan. Pardon?
We have a slide.
Okay, great.
We've solved it.
Okay.
On the second and third floor, we have identified 2 areas that can be used for MEP or storage. Those will, in fact, be used for storage on the second and third floors. The larger of the 2 will accommodate 10 individual lockers. In cages, it will be a sprinklered space, so there'll be a variety of sizes from as small as 3 by 3 by 4 to as large as 8 by 2'9" and by 4 foot tall. And then for the larger storage need, this individual closet can be used as a private locker, that entire closet, and then we have 10 garages. So with 10 cages in this space on the second and third floors, that makes 20, plus 2 here, that's 22, 10 garages, 32. So each unit in the building will have the opportunity to avail itself of storage in a variety of sizes to suit their needs.
I have one question.
Mr. Schaff.
In addition to this, there's still the bicycle storage on the first floor? Is that correct?
We are working on the bicycle storage solution, likely to accommodate it. Let's step back and let me address the bicycle storage.
Sure.
People that have nice bikes, they're going to either keep them in their garage or they can keep them in their unit. Somebody that invests in a nice bike typically is going to keep that possession more guarded than in a common storage area. So we are evaluating, trying to identify a location for bicycle storage within the clubhouse.
Within the clubhouse? Oh, okay.
Within or adjacent to the clubhouse.
All right.
All right.
That'll be fine. Thank you.
Comments?
There are no comments. I would convert.
Actually,
Sorry, go ahead.
I have a comment. What about the first floor? Where the first floor?
First floor storage?
Yes.
It's an elevator-served building. We're accommodating we have 10 garages on the first floor.
Right.
We have 11 storage spaces on the second floor, 11 storage spaces on the third floor. So they would be not specifically assigned to a unit, but rather leased to the person on a first-come, first-served basis, predicated on the need and priced accordingly. A 3x3x4 locker is going to be, or 3x3x5 locker is going to be obviously less expensive than a 6x8 closet.
So these aren't free? The storage areas aren't free?
No, it nominally priced, but priced according to size. If you want if you want a garage is $150 a month, $150 a month, depending upon the overall demand. Storage space, again, priced accordingly.
So it's sort of like a safety deposit box. They're all different sizes.
Yes. Obviously, if you if you wanted your own private storage locker, this space here, that's a substantial closet. We think that would command a different price, and it'd be priced according to demand and scarcity.
Now, I just find it odd that you charge for those. But it's been years and years and years since I lived in an apartment, and I can't ever remember when I lived in an apartment whether we had storage or not. I don't even know if we had electricity. But has anybody lived in an apartment recently that says that? I find it odd that you're charging for it, but at least we have defined storage, so I'm okay with that. Any other questions? Mr. Steinman?
It's not specifically in this question, but the bicycle and elevator stuff did come up. Is the elevator large enough to wheel a bicycle into?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Accommodates a structure.
Okay, great. No other comments? Then we can move forward to number 10. Contact fire department to go Contact fire department to go over review memo comments. Petitioner is scheduled to meet with the fire department on July 23rd to address all comments raised in the memo from the Wheeling Fire Department dated July 8th. Right before the meeting, we got this little book that Mr. Antor, I'm not sure how to address this. Of course, I haven't had an opportunity to read this.
The particular item that we gave you before the commission meeting was a series of emails between fire department staff and a petitioner as the result of our meeting. And I believe at this time, the petitioner can respond about that, and then we can answer any questions.
Mr. James.
Okay, we did meet earlier. We've had an exchange, both a formal written response to each of the questions raised. I believe most of those are satisfactorily addressed. There are probably two issues that were the crux of further conversation, discussion. And the first one has to do with the need for a fire lane. And what the code requirement says is that if a portion of the perimeter of the building is more than 150 feet from the roadway, then you need a fire lane or you need sprinklers. It's been clarified to me by the chief that I'm not going to challenge his knowledge of the code. He clearly knows it better than I. He's saying that there is a requirement. We can accommodate that. This slide here shows the portions of the buildings that are more than 150 feet from a road. Every place else is accessible from a road. So one of the immediate changes that we made is up here in the northeast corner. We are going to provide a gated entry access there. acknowledge that the front door of Building 8 down here is accessible from the street, and this parking area is accessible, but it's not the primary entrance. So again, only the green spaces have the fire lane issue that's been raised. There's been some discussion before the meeting, and it's my understanding that if we can accommodate a fire lane roughly that approximates this location, then it would satisfy the code requirements. There are provisions in the code and precedent in the community wherein a 12-foot wide paved surface capable of supporting the vehicle is acceptable for a fire lane, provided that there's a 3-foot clear buffer on either side. And there are other examples that were provided within the community. So we will take this approach and return with the final plan. It's been fully vetted by the fire department that incorporates a fire lane roughly in this location, north to south, connecting the two roads. We actually have to address how it intersects with the primary road and adjust the parking accordingly, maintaining the turning radiuses. This alternative was deemed not acceptable. I'm not sure if the exhibit is in here, but we also did initially submit a turning radius exhibit. It was just thin lines. We supplemented that with a more detailed exhibit showing shading of what the turning radiuses are. Discussed it with the fire chief prior to the meeting. There are 3 or 4 locations that need some modification or adjustment to make sure that the vehicle turning radiuses are complied with, and we will agree to do that with the final engineering and the final plan.
Mr. Chairman, if I might just add, yes, the petitioner is correct in his assessment. Just to clarify, if the petitioner could put up that fire lane drawing. Again, that is strictly a visual representation for your reference. If you notice, the original design of this complex had an interior sidewalk structure within that courtyard area. We have discussed with the petitioner and requested that they make use of that pathway structure as part of this structure of the fire lane, and to create a more flow or a gentle winding feature, if you will, associated with that fire lane to make it a more visually appealing surface and something that could also be used in lieu of redundantly having a sidewalk and a fire lane. For some of the plant commissioners who are relatively new, we have done this in the past at a number of other complexes, Prairie Park, we have done it at Astor Place, we've done it at some of the other complexes in the last few years. We have agreed our fire lane standard is a 20-foot width under the code. We have in PUDs such as this allowed them to go down to a bare-boned width of 12 feet of asphalt. If you think about it, some of our larger sidewalks are 10 feet, so you're only widening some of those larger sidewalks we have already throughout the town by an additional 2 feet. The additional 3 feet of green space can be worked into their landscape plan with the use of low-growing landscape materials that can theoretically take some salt and ice and things like that when they plow the fire lane without killing them off, while at the same token still making use of that green space besides just grass. So again, this can fit into the plan that you did discuss earlier tonight about walking paths through the complex. And again, the petitioner has agreed to come back with a more definitive plan to meet our needs, and we concur with their recommendation. As far as the turning radiuses, one of the issues that was mentioned is we did in fact have an issue where we thought some of the turning radiuses would be prohibitive. The engineering analysis has come back and shown that to be correct. It would have warranted having big vehicles actually go over curves and up onto sidewalks to make certain turns. So I think there's 4 of them areas that need to be addressed. We have met with the petitioner and discussed various ways without major impacts to the overall design by tweaking some of the turning radiuses and the internal islands of the complex, therefore not changing the overall intent or layout of this plan shown to you tonight, but still at the same time meeting the needs of the fire department. I do want to emphasize to you, not only is it important for us to be able to make these turning radiuses, but many times garbage trucks and school buses and the like have very similar turning radiuses. So what would have also been difficult for us would have been difficult for them as well. So in the end, it's solving a development problem, not just the fire department problem. There was also a list of about 15 other items that we've gone through. They had to do with some interior design work that have been addressed. They include increasing the size of the sprinkler room, adding a sprinkler room that was missing, mechanical room from the clubhouse, addressing some issues with chemical storing and handling associated with the pool, fire alarm requirements, water requirements, fire department access to buildings, and issues such as this. All of those have been resolved to the satisfaction of the fire department.
Thank you, Chief. Any other comments, sir? No. Commissioner Stadlin.
Question for the chief. The picture that's up in front of us right now shows a lighting fixture that's pretty close to the roadway sidewalk area on this fire lane. Would it just be in the areas immediately adjacent to the buildings where you couldn't put any lighting within that extra 6-foot buffer, or would you say stay out of that 3 foot?
No, the picture that's up actually on the right here is actually a very good example of what is out at Astor Place right now. The lights have been placed in areas where they do not potentially interfere with fire department operations, but allow for proper lighting through illumination of the pathway to give that walkway appearance. And the same thing can be done with additional landscaping where it doesn't impact. So when we see the landscape plan, there are alternatives, but clearly there are, for lack of another word, clear spaces that need to be available for proper deployment of fire department equipment. But having, if you will, a barren strip or a scorched earth appearance is not the case. We've worked with previous developers in their landscape and lighting plans. I see no reason why that cannot be accomplished here as well.
Okay, great, thank you.
Commissioner Powers.
Can I ask petitioner a question? With the introduction of the fire lane, are you going to re-architect at all any of the sidewalks in between the buildings that will like from, I don't know, for example, building 6 going to like building 4 or whatever? I mean, you're going to redo some of those sidewalks now knowing what the fire department has proposed to you?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other comments? And thank you, Chief and Ron, for putting this together for us. Any other comments, Mr. Antor? Chief? No? That concludes all of the questions. Actually, back to number 10. I mean, these are all code, except for probably this new path here. Andrew, can we address that with a condition? And is that
Actually, Chairman?
Yes.
The fire lane is in fact a requirement of the International Fire Code, and we've discussed this. So this is really not an exception or a variation. It's more of emphasizing to the petitioner that it is a requirement of our fire code to do this, and he has come up with a solution that we mutually have agreed upon.
And I wholeheartly agree with that. I'm looking at, I was just going to say from an appearance standpoint. That's all I was looking at. I know everything is code requirements. So from an appearance perspective, is that something that we need to address? Or will that will come before us in final, I guess?
Are you referring to the appearance of the landscaping?
Yeah, landscaping and the chief suggested something a little bit more rambling, you know, here we see something that, you know, looks like a semi-moving snake.
It sounds as though there's general agreement that the pathway will exist.
Well, yeah, because of code.
But the exact shape of it, I think the fire department is suggesting that it could be modified.
Okay.
To still meet the requirements. So I think I would leave it at this point to the petitioner, their landscape architect, and the fire department to adjust
Right,
the curve
and then
and the plantings.
And it will come before us at final.
Yes, if you're correct. If you're referring to appearance of the path itself.
Well, I would specifically talk about the landscaping and all of that attached to it.
Sure, they would need to, if you superimpose this exact configuration on top of the landscape plan, they would need to adjust around it, but
Right.
they have a foundation planting plan, a typical foundation planting plan that they would probably adjust, as well as their greenway plan that would adjust around this. Again, that would be the curve of the path, and then the 3-foot clear space on each side of it would dictate
Okay.
how that gets
Great.
modified.
Thank you. So that concludes all of our comments. Any other general questions or comments? Yes or no? Is that
Yes.
you're shaking your head no, but you're raising your hand? Wasn't sure.
I got a lot of questions.
Okay.
I have one thing.
Commissioner Schaaf.
Thank you. Number 3 on the site plan, where the fire department has stated that it's not required. That's the only place where you've got a dead end, and that would be what, building 9, building 8. Yeah. Personally, I would still like to see that completed, but as far as the fire department, that's the only place where you don't have complete access.
We looked at building number 8, we've met with the developer, and we've looked at this. There's actually 2 problems that you have here, separation and proximity to change in grade with the diversionary canal.
Oh, okay.
So we looked at this, we have talked to the petitioner, again, there'll be some probably very minor tweaks as we adjust some of these turning radiuses. But for that particular building, we in theory will have 3 sides out of 4 access to this building. We will have a front side, as the petitioner alluded to, the back side, and we'll have also the east side where that drive comes in between buildings 8 and 9. To be very candid, yes, would I love it? Unfortunately, the site does not, unless we make a radical change to either the size of the building or the configuration of that whole end of this project, and I'm not even sure that's capable at this point. I think we've come to the best compromise on the situation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Steinle?
Sure, just a lot of questions that I think probably should be asked. Number 1 is, are you going to be expecting any TIF assistance from the village?
Yes.
Okay. Impact fees will probably be required by the library and Park District, et cetera, and you will be participating in those impact fees?
For the code.
And there is code for them, is that not correct, Andrew?
That's correct, and I believe we started that discussion back last May. I don't think there have been any changes to the code since then, but the petitioner has the contact information for each one of those districts.
Okay. A question for us is, when are we going to discuss building appearance?
I think, in general, we've been discussing building appearance. So
Have we?
if there are specific questions, I think I have been. I mean, we've talked about what the, we've had so many drawings up here. Terry, I don't know where in the heck you're going with that one, but please ask, because,
Well,
you know, we've talked to the materials that are being used, and to me, that's appearance. I'm not certain what,
Have we talked about colors of buildings? Are they all going to be all the same color? Are there going to be a mix of colors? Are all the...
we have not, so.
Are all the buildings going to look exactly like this building, or are there going to be a mix
Good
of
point.
architectures involved in the various... That's the kind of stuff that I call
Appearance.
building appearance. And, you know, the storm window, you know, just like what was said in Vernon Hills, the width of the window trim seems to be awful narrow, and maybe it should be widened a little bit. And you agreed to that in Vernon Hills, so I would suggest that you do the exact same thing here. But those kinds of issues need to be addressed. You know, what are the storm doors and stuff like that, and entranceway doors and garage door materials? Are they all going to look the same? Are they going to be some variations in appearance?
Well, I asked if,
You know, I just think
I'll
we should
ask-
discuss those items.
what,
You know,
and not that I disagree with you, but I've got to tell you that, and I've been on a number of PUDs, and maybe that's been our issue. I don't think I've ever discussed garage materials, types of doors, storm windows. If that's the direction you want to go, ask the question and they'll respond. Because I've been on these, and about the only extent that we've talked about, and we've talked about probably sizes of balconies, but when we got down to materials of garage doors and front doors and sliders and windows, I don't ever remember talking about those, and maybe we missed them on the last ones.
all I'm saying is, are they all going to be exactly the same?
That's different. That's different than asking what the materials are.
Okay,
You know, then,
I'm asking appearance questions.
okay, then you're exactly right. That is not anything that we have covered. So, and you bring up a valid point, so ask away. I mean,
Okay, the garage doors are insulated steel.
I don't care, I want to know what they
will
look
be
like from
They
outside.
will be consistent in appearance. There is one larger garage door to meet the handicap accessibility requirement. Otherwise, the garage doors are 9 feet wide, 7 feet tall. Otherwise, there's an 8-foot door. I forget which side it's on, left or right of the main door. That's to meet handicap accessibility codes.
So all the garages will all be the same color?
Yes. Garage doors will be a consistent color. We've also proposed 3 different color schemes. We would like to come back to you. There's one color scheme right here. We would come back to you at final with the color schemes and a color key as to where we would intend to use these buildings. If any one of these schemes is objectionable to you, let us know. We're not too proud. Colors are very subjective.
can we do that at final?
Determining which color goes where?
Yeah.
I believe so, sure.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we
Would
can
be,
do it
yeah,
then.
again,
Because we
consistent
can.
roof shingle, consistent brick. 3 variations of the color combinations on the buildings.
So the color combinations are in these 3 columns?
Yes.
Okay. And you'll come back and tell us what combination
Yeah.
goes where and how?
Yes, that's our intent. And if very difficult to pick colors from a computer rendering, or even in artificial light.
Well,
Much
I don't
better-
care. I just want you to tell us
Okay,
what
great.
buildings
We'll tell
are
you.
going to be what color. and-
We'll come back and tell you the specific ballot and identify which buildings.
I believe your statement at the last meeting a couple weeks ago was that you intend to have 2
Yeah.
options. You're going to take this 3 and then narrow it down to 2. If the commission has one to suggest be tossed at this point, you're open to that suggestion?
Yes, sir.
And the basic look of the building, I mean, the facades, the bump outs, all the buildings will look exactly alike, or will there be some ability to differentiate? This building has a peak here, this one has a flat there, you know, that there is some individual differences in.
The elevations and the fenestration will be the same across all buildings. The material combination or the material colors will be different. So the only variation from building to building would be color. There are minor distinctions based upon grade, obviously have to be accommodated depending upon the site plan, but otherwise the buildings are, architecturally speaking, the same set of plans.
I don't know that I like having 9 absolutely identical buildings. I'd like to see somehow a little bit more subtle tweaks, just, you know, a peak that's turned into a sloping roof, you know, on this building. On that building, it's a peak. On another building, it might look like something else. But something to just make the buildings slightly different in appearance. My next question is building and street lighting or path lighting or sidewalk, interior sidewalk lighting. What kind of lighting are we going to have? What's it going to look like? Going to have lights on the building? Or are you going to have lights in the open spaces?
We will need to meet the illumination standards. We'll present a photometric study. We will achieve that through the use of individual light poles with luminaire, typically 250 watt, whether it's LED or whether it's metal halide or sodium vapor. We're open to guidance from the village as to what the village standards are. There will be the use of wall pack lightings. We've identified a specific LED type fixture on the buildings that has almost a shoebox-like appearance so that you don't directly see the source of illumination, yet it casts light out from the building to help illuminate the parking spaces. We would submit those detailed plans for final review.
Again, I'm asking, and I'm going to continue to ask, if they come with a fixture that we as the board don't like, can we change that at final?
Yes.
Okay. All right. All right. Because, you know, Commissioner Stein, you're bringing up some very good points that I just want to ensure that we can change at final. They're not.
Yeah, the lighting is one of the items that is left for final. There's specific guidance as to the commission would like to see bollards along the pathways, like to see, we've heard indications that there's going to be a mix of pole lights and parking lot lights, and wall packs. If there's any other particular direction that they can use to select that fixture, I think that would be relevant. We can hand you the standards that were used at Astor Place. That was repeated at a couple of other developments. They have a pedestrian level light and a parking lot light and then sort of a mid-range light. So we can sort of provide you with what's been approved on some other developments to help you narrow your selection.
But we can adjust that at final time.
Yes, it is a requirement of final, that if there's guidance, they can take that into account.
I know you've said numerous times that you're going to have an elevator in the building, but the plan does not say elevator. There's just that square box that probably could house an elevator. I'd like the plan to indicate that it is indeed an elevator.
I'll state it again. Every building will be served by an elevator. That elevator will meet the code requirements to accommodate an 84 by 24 stretcher.
I'd like to also see on the site plan some provision or at least an access agreement in the southwest corner of a property that might allow a walking path to the adjacent property that's further south across the creek. So would that be acceptable? You said you're going to put a crushed stone.
I'm not inclined to accept that recommendation. There's a diversion channel that runs around the west, south, and the north sides. There's a weir here, and we would have to design a bridge to cross that area. I think there's already been discussion of a bridge crossing here. When you get into bridges, you get into much more significant expenses, and frankly, I'm not sure what would or would not be permitted in terms of structures in the floodway. So that's something that I don't know enough about. I'm not inclined to invite pedestrian traffic in the southwest corner.
I'm not asking you to install anything. All I'm asking for is an access easement down there such that if it was possible to do in the future with the capabilities of the person to the south, better to have that on the plan now than trying to negotiate it.
I guess from our perspective, we would like this to be a self-contained community with defined entrances, and to the extent that there's a back door that invites other pedestrians into the community, I'm not sure that that's necessary or appropriate. I'd feel much more comfortable having the defined entrances along Northgate.
Okay. The balconies that you have on each unit, are they capable of, we've seen some small balconies where you can't get 2 chairs and a table and be able to walk around them to get to the chairs. Is the size of the balcony sufficient to, Jim, I don't know, what is a normal table size?
That's a good point. I know we've had that discussion in other PUDs about the depth. So can you tell us what is
Balcony is approximately 5 feet deep.
Andrew, do you know what we have had problems with and approved in the past?
I believe 5 is where we set out, where you could put a reasonable sized table and
a couple chairs.
I think 5 is what we ended up on actually after that discussion.
Okay. And, again, I don't see too many distances on the plans, so I'll assume that they're going to be 5 foot. Gazebos, swing sets, lawn seating, I think some of your pictures showed benches on the corners and stuff. Now, the chief may have some problems with where those benches are placed, barbecue areas, whatever. Is that something that will eventually be shown? And if, can we require those things? I mean, you got some nice areas where you could put some gazebo-ish type areas.
I think the final landscape plan, if you have an aesthetic for the outdoor furniture that you plan to propose, you would need to provide that. If you have a trash can.
Yes, we will provide a detailed plan for the use of the green space.
And the construction of those.
Yeah.
And if they don't have gazebos at that time, we can ask or require them to put them in as part of the final?
I can assure you that if we do have a gazebo, it'll be less than 225 square feet.
Commissioner Stylen, when it comes to gazebos, just a reminder, we have an ancillary structure requirement of 225 square feet, which the petitioner is correct. Over that, he would in fact have to provide fire protection. The larger you make it, it also becomes an issue for setbacks and distances to these particular structures. There are various setback requirements. The final decision is obviously yours, but the ability to put perhaps gazebos, if you're on this site, would be very difficult.
Interesting. Anyway, I would like to see those kinds of meeting areas, play areas, whatever, detailed out in the final plan. And while we said last week that we wanted the buildings designed for centralized communications for AT&T, cable, satellite, etc., you know, how do we assure that those things are being done? Would that be a condition somewhere, Andrew? How, you know, we normally don't get too much into the internal plumbing, if you will, of.
I think there are limitations on what we can require, what we discussed the last time around. I think they are taking that, the suggestion to do centralized communications to the greatest extent possible. Beyond that,
And Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't some of those issues for the plan review by the Building Department and Community Development?
well, sure. I think the question though of the, you know, having the utilities, I think we went through that issue, splitting 8 and 8. How are the boxes split? 16, on each side?
Yeah, electric is 16 and 17 on the sides of the buildings. Gas is a single gas meter. It's then just to service the building. It gets distributed around the outside because the individual Magic Pack units, it's sub-metered within that Magic Pack closet. That's a multifamily utility sub-metering company. They read it wirelessly on a daily basis. Similarly with water, single point of connection, it's distributed to the building, a sub-meter, so tenants are individually billed. So that promotes conservation. It's also modern technology, a lot easier to do the billing. With respect to cable, internet, satellite, we bring all of those feeds into a closet on the second floor. We distribute out from there into the individual units. We can make the connection in the building closet so that it serves, you know, so that AT&T can come in and put AT&T into an individual unit from that closet, or Comcast, or Dish, or DirecTV. And then, obviously, that's under control, that's a controlled setting. Once you're in their unit, then they'll have individual coaxial jacks that serve their needs, that get wired directly back to that main closet. So there'll be a choice, there'll be provisions made so that we can control, we can't restrict, we can't deny per the FCC, but we can make provisions to limit the number of dishes that we have to accommodate on a building. I think the village attorney explained previously that we're all bound by federal law, but if we make accommodations, we can control where those satellite dishes go. If we have provision in the buildings, very important to us to maintain the aesthetic. We don't want to see it run wild. Where, in my experience, where we've had difficulties, Dish Network, DirecTV, easy. When you get into some of the more obscure service providers, that's where that might be, foreign language channels, things like that. That's where we have to make other accommodations.
All righty. Next, I think only 3 left. So I still am a little concerned about what you are going to do with large garbage items, whether it be a large cardboard box that somebody puts, you know, a bed mattress or bed's king size thing in your little room in the doodad, and you're going to take care of it and move it somewhere else and do something else with it.
Full-time on-site management.
Where are you going to put that stuff? Assuming that it's in the way of being in the quote garbage room.
If it's too large to accommodate in the garbage room, we'll bring it into the clubhouse, in the maintenance area of the clubhouse, and deal with it from there. Or make special arrangements for a special pickup.
Okay, I just have a little bit of problem with that. Next thing I would like to see on the plan is that all your accesses that you have going to Northgate, the new one on the north side and your 3 other entrances that you have down southbound or down to the south on Northgate, I'd like to ensure that they have sidewalk connections into the inner walkways of your property so that people can get out to that sidewalk that's going down Northgate Road, can come in on your property or go around, you know, the whole thing. So just like to see sidewalk connections there as well. Any problems with that?
No problem with that.
Okay. And my last one appears to be a duplicate, was building appearance, so we've covered that.
You wanted to make sure you got that one. And Commissioner Stylin, apologize for when you went down the appearance, I wasn't sure where you're going, and you made some very, very valid points. So thank you for doing that. Any other questions or any comments? Anything more that?
Can I ask one more?
That Commissioner Stylin probably, hopefully, had some more provided or provoked some more questions. Commissioner Powers?
Can I ask a question about the area where you're going to have like the activity on the south side of the property? I belong to I have a homeowners association. We have a common area, and you know we have to carry like insurance. If something were to happen in that area, does the management company take care of that, and carry actually some insurance that if somebody were to get hurt in that area, that they would take care of that? How does it work?
Absolutely.
Or, well, I don't think there is going to be any kind of an association. I assume your fees are going to cover that. Is that right?
Absolutely. The owner of the site would maintain insurance, proper insurance. Absolutely.
Okay. That's it.
Any other comments? Well, we have 2 dockets in front of us. And I guess the comments around the parking is that this is what they're going to go with, and they know our consensus on that, and the consensus on the cementitious board as far as a code relief. Any other comments about anything? I'm going to ask for a vote on both of these tonight.
Are you going to address the rezoning?
It's one of the dockets. Right. It's one of the dockets. Do we have any conditions on the rezoning?
No, there are no conditions on the rezoning.
So, do I hear a motion on 2013-12A rezoning of 100 Northgate Parkway from I-3 General Industrial District to MXT Transit Oriented transit-oriented mixed-use district.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Stylin, second by Commissioner Schaaf. Mr. Secretary.
For docket 2013-12A, the rezoning, Commissioner Stylin.
Yes.
I'm Commissioner Schaaf, I vote yes. Commissioner Powers.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson is absent. Commissioner Dorban.
Yes.
Commissioner Zangara.
Yes.
And Chairman Rafato.
Yes.
That's 6 yes, and 1 absent.
Next docket is 2013-12B, special use site plan approval for preliminary planned unit development. Do I hear a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Or a second?
Second.
Second motion was made by Commissioner Stylin, seconded by Commissioner Powers.
With conditions.
And the conditions are, a little late.
Number 1, that the final plan illustrate the installation of a sidewalk along the property's Northgate Parkway frontage. Number 2, that a 6-foot cedar board-on-board fence is added along the west property line and may be eliminated at final PUD should the western area include adequate berming and evergreen plantings. Number 3, the village continue to explore the possibility of a TIF project to extend the sidewalk to Dundee. Number 4, that the final plan include landscape irrigation as required by code. Number 5, that the petitioner develop a walking path for the perimeter connecting to the Northgate sidewalk at the north and south property lines with marked crosswalks as needed. Number 6, that the south detention area may be developed with recreational uses such as a dog walking area and volleyball court. Number 7, that while the commission is in favor of the proposed appearance, cement fiberboard is to be added to the code relief table for final PUD to address the reduction under the minimum masonry requirement. Number 8, that the petitioner work to increase the ratio of covered parking. Number 9, that the total number of storage units match the number of dwelling units in each building with various sizes permitted. Number 10, that the final PUD plan address the outstanding comments from the fire department memo, in particular the minimum turning radii and increasing the width of an internal pathway to also be utilized as emergency access.
Commissioner Stylin?
Number 6, where we say that the southern lot may be, could we change that around to maybe should be within the floodplain and whatever the other regulations are? I mean, I'd like to see that land used, and may just doesn't seem to be too definitive.
How would that read then?
Shall be developed with recreational uses,
I think so.
subject to
Yeah.
floodplain regulations.
So the variations, and I know we have a motion and a second, but the variations that they requested was around the parking, correct? That was the only variation?
Technically, there's a variation relating to, well, the total list at this point would be number of buildings on a lot. Technically, we have a requirement in the code that limits the number of buildings on a single lot to 1.
Okay.
The covered parking requirement, they're requesting a ratio, reducing that 1-to-1 down to 0.3-to-1. There's currently, the total parking requirement would require variation. By the end of the process, that may not be the case.
Right, okay.
That's currently under review by the board. And then, as discussed tonight, there would be a reduction from the minimum requirement for masonry to reflect the ratio that's displayed on the elevations.
But what I want to convey to the board is that there was and I'm hoping that these conditions convey that there was a split on the reduction, on the variation, so there is no, what's it called, not a no confidence, I'm getting a little
It was
punchy.
not a consensus.
Not a consensus, and there was a consensus to deny there was actually a consensus to deny the variation on the parking. Okay. So I just want to make sure that that's clear. So, okay. So we have a motion by Commissioner Stylen, second by Commissioner Powers. Mr. Secretary?
For docket 2013-12B, for the special use for the PUD, Commissioner Stylen.
No.
Commissioner Powers.
No.
Commissioner Dorban.
No.
Commissioner Johnson is absent. I am Commissioner Schaaf. I vote yes. Commissioner Zangara.
I vote yes.
And Chairman Rafato.
Yes.
There's 3 yes, 3 no, 1 absent.
We will forward this to the board with the findings, go along with this recommendation. You can be in touch with our office regarding the date of that meeting. We put in the request, typically we put in the request for the next available date, and we'll let you know what that is. And is that sample something that you can leave in this building, or do you need to take it with you? Would it be?
I'm sure they're more than happy to.
You can lift it.
It might be here until the next meeting.
We'll just drag it. So I need a motion to close, please, on both of those.
Do we have a motion to close public hearing?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. There's probably a couple of things that you need to sign. I can do the minutes, right? Approval of minutes for July 11, 2013.
Excuse me, what do we do about the Dynamax?
Those will be,
The
We
motion
can discuss on the Dynamax and see if the revised drawing satisfies the
Okay.
commission's.
then we'll hold off on the approval of minutes. Thank you for bringing that up. Completely forgot about it. That was such 3 hours ago.
We table that?
No, we're going to discuss it.
Oh, okay.
Good point. I'm going to say something. Chief Santor, thank you.
Thank you.
We promise no trees this time in the.
The other samples, can you also leave those?
The Hardy Board?
There's two of these shelves. Oh, Andrew?
Yes.
Okay, you sign both of those. Give me one of those real quick. I know. Is that B?
There's a B.
Okay.
That's an A.
That's all right.
all going to have to help Andrew move.
I know. He's going to bring it home for his kids. Part of the beginning of a playhouse, the beginning of a playhouse.
Yeah.
Or you want that for your granddaughter?
bring a forklift.
The beginning of a playhouse?
Yeah, can we get 3 more?
3 more sides, you got it.
Yeah, we should have asked for a continuance 3 times.
Okay, so, Andrew, Dynamax?
Dynamax, the last discussion that I had heard of between Ms. Jones and the petitioner was that they had intended on being here. However, we do have their updates, and if the commission would like to vote, you certainly are welcome to. The item, the question that the staff had, there were 2 questions actually. First was the overall size of the second sign. We had no particular issues with this one size-wise. There was a question on both sides as to what the construction of the oval was. They've confirmed that it's constructed the same as the letters. That is, it's an opaque material, it's aluminum, and it's backlit with LEDs. So at night, it would be, it would appear to have this oval effect would also appear at night. This other space would be empty space in between the letter set and the oval. The question that we had size-wise was on the other building. They originally did not provide a rendering of this space. We had suspected that the sign as shown would not fit in between the various design elements on the building. We asked them to confirm that it would fit in the space that they thought it would fit in. It did not. So they revised the sign, made it a little smaller, so now it does fit between the 2 stripes. With that, it meets the code size-wise, and they also answered the question again about the construction of the oval matching the construction of the letter element. So staff's questions on this have been answered. We had thought that Dynamax would either have a representative of their own company here or the sign company might attend. But it would be up to the commission at this point to make a recommendation one way or the other. The only other item that we had observed on this, and I don't know if you can tell in the photographs, but the paint that's been applied to the building is coming off in a couple of locations. It actually looks like there are unpainted bricks that are having this similar issue. I don't know if some water has gotten in, if maybe it's a tuck pointing issue. So what we would just suggest is that they address the condition of the bricks.
And that's around the whole building, because that's along the bike path, and saw it on the bike path also.
And as they're installing a sign on the facade, our facade inspection would normally be limited to the sign area, but the same issue is affecting the sign area and areas next to the sign.
Right.
So what I would suggest that they address it in both locations. And if they have an issue with that condition of approval, they could, of course, come back at a later meeting.
Commissioner Steinle, you sent, you're talking about the Dynamax sign today. Are you comfortable with the responses? If not,
Yeah, my concern was that halo, and was it painted on the building, or how was it constructed? Andrew found out what the construction was. My only concern is that construction is not documented on the physical plan. Can we add a condition or something that just says the halo is manufactured the same way the individual letters are?
yes.
Would that be reasonable?
Yeah, everybody's in agreement with that. Yep.
Andrew, are you looking for a condition then that approving of the sign along with fixing the striping on the building? Is that what that was?
I haven't gone back and done a thorough inspection, but I think that the building owner does need to address whatever's going on with the facade. Our code requires the facade to be repaired prior to sign installation.
Oh.
That is intended to be the area directly adjacent to the sign, but in this case, the sign on the south building It's covering a large area on the corner of the building. So I think as they aren't here, I think the condition of approval is appropriate. The impact on them, regardless of that, would be to come to the next meeting. So if they object to that condition, they could come to the next meeting and explain what's going on with their building.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2 signs with the stipulation that they fix the painting on the top of the building.
We have to do them, probably have to do them separately.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the signs.
This
They're
would be
separate.
SCBA
1317. We have a motion by Commissioner Powers. We have a second.
Yes.
We have a motion. I've always wondered if I could second or make a motion, and I'm getting to that point. We have a motion by Commissioner Powers, seconded by Commissioner Stylin. Mr. Secretary?
Okay, for SCBA 13-17, the 1543 to 47 buildings.
No, 17 is 1535, sorry.
I got it wrong?
17 is
17.
Is 15.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Okay. So, the 17, Commissioner Powers.
Yes.
Second by Commissioner Stylin.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, there's 2 yes. Commissioner Dorban.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson is still absent. Commissioner Schaaf, I vote yes. Commissioner Zangara.
I vote yes.
And Chairman Rafato.
Yes.
Okay.
Docket number SCBA 1318. Their motion.
Make the motion, Jim.
And I'll second.
Their motion.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Commissioner Stylin.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Dorban.
Okay, for SCBA 13-18, Commissioner Stylin.
Yes.
Commissioner Dorban.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson is absent. Commissioner Powers.
Yes.
I'm Commissioner Schaaf, I vote yes. Commissioner Zangara.
Yes.
And Chairman Rafato.
Yes.
6 yes and 0 no on both.
Approval of minutes, July 11, 2013.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Okay, great. Other business. Mr. Jennings, any other business?
No, I do have, under the next couple of meetings, we're going to have to make some adjustments. We're expecting a possible workshop that we'll email you about. The board may have a workshop on an item of Plan Commission interest in the next couple weeks. We're waiting to see what that's scheduled for. And then we have a working session with the village attorneys that is scheduled for the same night as our public hearing on the industrial lane plan. So at this point, we're anticipating having enough time to do both. The attorneys are scheduled to be present for that meeting anyway. If for some reason the public hearing does run long, we would probably reschedule the working session with the attorneys for another night. As of right now, we do not have a date for our van tour. We had hoped to do that on that night, and we are currently double booked on that night as it is. We may be able to add a meeting in August for that purpose.
Okay, I'd like to see that.
Is there a meeting scheduled August 1? August 1st?
August 1st, no. First,
Okay.
we never, no. Thank you. Commissioner Dorban?
A couple things. First of all, would it be possible to check out to see if there's excessive signage on the cell phone store that is east of Wolf on Dundee? The other thing is, I don't know, I saw this in the Daily Herald. We have a CrossFit in Wheeling, have they come for a sign or anything? Andrew?
CrossFit in Wheeling.
It's on Huntington. That sound familiar?
We've had several small training businesses. Are they a training business?
Pardon me?
For the personal training?
Yes.
We've had several small training businesses that operate under the current code. One-on-one training is as a permitted use, so they're classified like tutoring.
I just was curious because, it's kind of nice to know we have new businesses in and around, and usually if they come to us for a sign, we can kind of, talk about it, but this is one that came up and I hadn't heard about it.
As far as I know, they have not yet applied for a sign.
Okay. Oh, thank you. That's all.
Oh, thank you. Commissioner Zangara?
First, I will not be here on August 8th, out of town, work-related. Second of all, they did start construction on Pleasant Run Park?
Yeah. Yes.
It's been demoed last week. I don't know, I haven't been there because there is a movie at the park tonight, and I heard it was a good turnout. But is there any signs posted showing the renovation around the park? I didn't see one on the Ridgefield side.
Showing the nature of what they're doing?
Yes. Because it has been brought up what's
Usually,
going on.
they usually do. The Park District usually does post something. I have not.
Rendering.
Yeah, they tend to post that
Would you,
overall plan. I can ask them if they have something like that in the works.
Good point.
Okay, that's it.
Commissioner Schaaf?
I have nothing, thank you.
Commissioner Powers?
I have nothing.
Commissioner Stadler?
I have nothing this evening.
Commissioner Stadler? Nothing?
Nothing.
I just have one thing. Commissioner Stylen, for the newer board members, and it's always an education for me, is the questions that he asked at the end of after we went through the 10 comments. Those are the things that we, and me even been here for I don't know how many years I have, that just sometimes we don't think about. Now, the appearance, when I said, well, we've been talking about appearance, but some of the specifics that he talked about are things that we, as a board, really need to, focus on, and thank you for bringing those up. But some of the other things in the PUDs are a little bit different, and like lighting that will be done at final, and, so there's that variation. So some of the things, just as an aside, just keep those in the back of your mind when we get another PUD, is to ask those questions. So, it may seem like Terry's just asking them all, but it's something that was beneficial from a learning experience for me too, so thank you for that. I don't have anything else.
I did forget one thing. They did finally take the building down at Lexington and Lake Cook.
Oh.
And so it looks like that's moving along.
Oh, good.
I'll be excited to see the building go up.
Good. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are done.
Thank you.